Hey, good evening. Got a little bit of news here, and I found more than I thought I was going to find. Now, we all know about the Nashville school shooting. It saddens me like it does you. But 6 killed, 3 students, and I guess the janitor and a teacher. And I think it's begs something. The captain or whoever made the news conference, they had to drag it out of him that it was a transgender woman becoming, I guess, switching over to a man. And I think we need to go into this a little bit more. I'm not saying this is because she was, in my opinion, because she wanted to switch, but I'd be very interested in seeing what kind of medication that she was given, chemicals, and what's the danger assessment on these medications she was given. And one of the things that does disturb me, of course, President Biden, and he's not alone, as these politicians right away want to get back on gun control. Well, gun control, we have a right to have our weapons in America. It's been decided by the Supreme Court. But what would make us fly a little bit more is that they would take this stuff serious. For example, we got all these millions and billions of dollars we're giving to schools to teach woke nonsense. They could take some of that money and have these exit doors, rectifitted, where if somebody leaves the door open, an alarm would come off. And they could be programmed that, people going out the door is fine, but after 20 seconds, if that door is left open, it would be notified. The children could go into a drill. And I think we could use some of that money we've been wasting, given to other countries, to give schools the chance to have armed guards there and a one way into that in and out. And that's my opinion. Senator Rand Paul staffer stabbed in D.C. And it's now saying with life-threatening injuries. Again, we don't know who did this or what motivated them. But clearly, Democrats, by most part, suggesting violence. Maxine Walters, another flat tire, saying get in people's faces. That's the most stupidest thing I've ever heard of. Now, you just think about it. We've all been to baseball, basketball games where the teenagers or college students get in a fight. It's going to happen when you have body contact. What do the coaches do? They separate them. They don't tell them to get in each other's face. They separate them. Cool down. Think of what you're doing. But yet, politicians get in each other's face. Ridiculous. It's transcending down to every part of our life. Now, California lawmakers approved Newsom's oil bill. Here's what you need to know. They're going to tax oil producers if they make too much profit. Where in the hell have we ever heard of telling people, don't be the best you can be? There's only one reason that a business goes into business, and that's to make a profit for the owner or the stockholders. When I was very young, I worked in a department store, and Woodworth and Lothrop, it was the oldest department store in Washington, D.C., the first store to have marked merchandise. And I was, one of the questions on the test, they gave me what was the functions of a purpose of a store. And I gave a beautiful explanation, serve the people, quality merchandise, confidence. And the only answer they wanted was to show a profit. Um, Now, they're still talking about Trump's, some of the spin they're trying to put out that he's going over a deep end full of hate. And, but he still brought in 18,000 people there. And one of the things that he has been criticized by Laura Ingalls and a couple of the other people that he ought to be talking more about the future and what he's going to do for the country. We're Prices are going up out of sight. You can't even afford a hamburger anymore. It's so bad right now. Hamburger helper needs hamburger helper. But I think he may be doing this on purpose to throw the Democrats off. I agree. Let's talk more about what he's going to do, because no one argues about his policies. Not anybody's got any smarts, but his personality and dwelling on the past, I don't serve well. But Trump one time said that I read one of his books. He says, when you're negotiating, he says you have to sometimes act crazy. And he give an example. There was a farmer who committed suicide. He was very far in debt, and he thought by doing this, that would pay off the family farm and his wife wouldn't be indigent. But it didn't fly, or he didn't get enough, and the banks were going to foreclose. So, hold on, my thing went off. There you go. My light went off, sorry. And banks weren't going to accept it. And Trump had went on the station with, I think, Imus, and they raised the money, but then the bank wouldn't accept it. That's what happened. So Trump called him up, the bank up, and he says, "You're going to take this money, or else we're going to file suit against you for murder." And would you believe 15 minutes later, the bank called back and they were glad to accept it. In other words, that ground had appreciated, and the bank was going to use that as a way to make herself some money. Again, it's another article in the paper. Microsoft has laid off 559 more workers. They're bringing the total cut to 2,700. I don't think for a second that Microsoft is not making money. But I think that ever since Elon Musk took over Twitter and laid off about 2/3 of his staff, and he's still in business, the other companies are coming to realize that they're not out there to be a social, charitable organization, that they need to use employees in a constructive manner. And if you're not needed, well, you may have to go work for someplace else. It's hard, but that's the way it is. It's over here say they laid off 10,000. Chick-fil-A, place I used to like to go get tacos when I was on the East Coast, will pay a $240,000 penalty, roughly 1% of its daily revenue, for shutting down a store that tried to become a union. There are laws protecting people who want to become unions. But again, if a person wants to close down his business, I don't know. That may go all the way to Supreme Court, but that's just a minute amount of money they're paying against what brings in to send a message to anybody else who wants to start a union. In $240,000, they could spend that much in a couple of days in legal fees. Okay, 18 cutting-edge tanks from Germany was delivered to Ukraine. Crews were trained to use them, and I think this is good. I really think that the Ukrainians, they're fighting for their country, keeping somebody from coming in, stealing their land, and it's for the best interest of the world. If they kick the Russians out and they get a bloody nose, and maybe they'll quit being trying to steal everybody's property. The chair of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Michael McCall, Republican of Texas, ranking member George Meade to attend the full committee hearings about China Tuesday on Capitol Hill. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, we used up 9 minutes. And the Republicans again are going to deliver a subpoena to Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on Tuesday for the classified cable relating to the chaotic, I guess, in Afghanistan. And they should. I mean, that's billions of dollars. That's my money, your money. Not to say that is going to be sold to enemies of America, and that we paid for is now going to be used to kill our women and children in war. Wind industry. There we go. Windmill farms predicted a bounce back and rapid growth in 2023. That may happen. I don't know. I don't know a lot about them. When I was a truck driver up in California at a casino, there was one on there, and I was able to walk up to it within about 10 feet, and you could not hear it run. I don't know where the birds are getting caught up in that. I know when I flew an airplane, small plane, there were some birds coming in on the field, and I started to move, to change course. And the instructor wouldn't let me do that. He said, just confuses them. So if these windmills are killing birds, they can make something to scare them away. But they are not maintenance free. One among other things, anytime you got something turning, you're gonna have to have a gear. You have a generator, and don't forget if the wind blows heavy, they got brakes in there so the propellers don't go too fast and spin out of control. New Mexico judge in Santa Fe District said the Santa Fe District attorney shouldn't serve as co-counsel for the manslaughter case against actor Alan Baldwin. And so that makes sense. I mean, although they do have defense attorneys, or people that can't afford an attorney, I don't think that's the case with Mr. Baldwin. For myself, I don't believe it was ever done on purpose. I believe what I've always thought is probably some of the younger people out in the desert target practicing. That's a natural thing you do, and the gun wasn't checked properly. Now, the vice president, Kamala Harris, is welcome down in South Africa, and she's trying to make our presence stronger. And this is to make a check against China. And that in itself is probably good. They have minerals down there we need. And I just wish somebody was more qualified was doing it. She's not, doesn't instill a lot of confidence in me. Speaking of that, U.S. and Japan strike a deal to supply minerals for the EV batteries, electric vehicle batteries. You know, we have that rich earth here, but we quit mining it some years ago. I think it's called rich earth. And the world is round. So if we honestly care so much about the world, why do we farm out all the pollutants to other countries to do it, to do the dirty work? So anyway, now U.S. Ambassador to Japan, Ralph Emanuel, has called on the world's leaders, economics, to develop an anti-coalition counter to describe economic pictures on China. Well, I messed up his name and I apologize. But he was one that taught President Obama never let a perfectly good crisis to go to waste. And I guess that's what he's doing now. We have to be careful how we do this. I think right now the best thing to do is defeat Russia. China's watching Russia. If the world lets Russia roll in, and you got all these countries over there, they don't have to go across 3,000 miles to an ocean to fight a war. So if they're not willing to defend themselves, that's a hard problem for the world. Well, thank you very much, and please chime